If Ontario's capital city wants transit infrastructure, it has to find a way to pay for it. And the city's mayor has just proposed tolls on 2 major highways to help get that job done. Joining us now for their assessment of Mayor John Tory's plan, here are Karen Stintz, President and CEO of Variety Village and a past chair of the Toronto Transit Commission, and Martin Reg-Con, who's the Ontario politics columnist for the Toronto Star. Welcome to you both. Karen Stintz, you heard what the mayor had to say.
I did.
Initial reaction?
Well, my initial reaction is it's certainly a bold announcement to make, and his commitment to transit is clear. But I am left with wondering, what is the relevance of Metrolinx? Because overwhelmingly, it was my understanding that Metrolinx was established and designed to be the regional transit builder across the Greater Toronto Area. It was the one who was going to find the revenue tools that were going to be fairly and equitably distributed across everybody who would benefit from transit. And now Metrolinx has effectively been sidelined by the Mayor of Toronto coming out and saying, well, I'm going to build my own transit. Here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put tolls on my roads that everyone else is going to pay for. And nothing wrong with that. That is a position that will help them raise some money. But fundamentally, it really does beg the question, what is the ongoing role and relevance of Metrolinx in helping to build transit that's going to serve the region?
Martin.
Well, I've never heard John Tory so focused. It's as if he's found religion on road tolls and has had a conversion on the road to Damascus, in the sense that he is the former mayoral candidate way back about 12 years ago who called it highway robbery. I think now he's seen the light. One reason is I think he has understood that the foundations have changed. You pay a price as a politician for being too far ahead of the curve on something like road tolls. Not that Toronto is leading the way by any means. But I think the ground has shifted and there is more openness to that. And I think he has recognized that with a financial shortfall, this is the right place to move. And as you heard him say, it's a nice place to begin, because if 40% of those commuters who are paying that toll are from out of the city, that reduces some of his political pain as well.
Sure. I'm reminded of John Boehner's line, the former speaker in the United States Congress, who used to say, if you're a guy out leading and you're too far ahead of everybody else, you're just somebody out for a walk. And nobody wants to be in that position. Is the mayor right when he says, I mean, you're former head of the TTC, so you know all the options that are out there, that he says he's studied all the different options that are out there, and this is the best one for raising $200 million a year?
Well, it's an option. I mean, is it
the best option?
Is it the best option? I don't believe it is. And I think there is, well, I advocated when I was running for mayor to sell part of Hydro. And I think that would be a better option. I know he calls it a one-time fire sale, but the reality is it would inject billions into needed infrastructure that would be more built in a more timely fashion.
You see what's happening at the provincial level as they've tried to partially privatize Hydro?
So, I mean, I ran on that. That was my campaign, and that's what I believe. But I think John Tory, he does have a political issue in front of him, in that if he's really going to say that this is to build transit, then he can't say it's about revenue generation for the existing road. Because you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, they've used our roads for free, it costs us money to upkeep them. Now we're in a position where we've got to pay for these roads, so we're going to now toll the roads. Are you going to toll the roads to pay for the roads, or are you going to toll the roads to pay for transit? And I think you have to be clear, because if you're not clear, it just looks like a money grab. And I think it's going to be hard for him going forward to say, yeah, you know what, because he has a budgetary crisis, he has a hole he has to fill. Is he going to fill it through road tolls? If so, there's nothing left over to build transit. So there's a, he's in a bit of a situation where he's got to be a little bit, and he said, oh no, it's to build transit, it's to build transit, it's to build transit. But he's also said, we've got a financial problem, we've got a fiscal hole, and we think it's only fair that the people who use the roads pay for the roads.
Shelley Carroll, who's one of the other members of City Council, says a 1% increase on a sales tax is a better, fairer way to get the job done. Your view?
Look, I'm in favor of taxes generally. I'm pro-tax. I don't run away from taxes. I don't like the idea of a sales tax that's in one geographical area. To me, it's just a recipe for causing a lot of anxiety with merchants, with shopping malls, and people just going to the suburbs to buy. So I don't like that idea. Property taxes are, by definition, regressive. But you think you need to tap into, you quickly learn that while income taxes that are progressive are the best form of taxation, there's a limit. You need to grab revenue everywhere you can to finance the tens of billions of dollars that are needed to improve our transit, because we are so far behind. We have been slacking on this for so many years, canceling transit, deferring road tolls, that you have to begin somewhere. And yes, John Tory is trying to have it both ways by saying, On the one hand, it's going to help for transit. On the other hand, it's going to pay for those roads. Look, politicians say what they have to say to move forward on something like this, and there is nothing more political than road tolls.
Let's just play a clip here and give you guys a break for a second. We had Jennifer Keesmaat, the chief planner for the City of Toronto, come in here last week for a taping on a completely different item. The road tolls issue came up, and naturally we were curious as to see what her thoughts were on this. So let's roll that clip, shall we, Sheldon? Take us 5 or 10 years down the road. Let's assume tolls have been in place on the major highways over that period of time. How differently will things look as a result?
Well, there's a lot of different things that need to be sorted out, including what the price is. And you'll have different, is there time of day pricing? Is it free at certain times of the day and priced only during peak period? What is the price set at? And all of these things need to be tested to understand the cause and the effect. If you get the price too high, that will be a problem. But if the price is too low, it just won't have an impact at all. One of the best things that happened from my perspective around this announcement was an interview with someone who uses the Gardiner every day who said, oh, great, I think I'm going to have to start carpooling. And my response is, bingo, because carpooling is a much more efficient use of that infrastructure.
Karen, do you think $2 per trip is enough to change people's habits?
No, not particularly. I don't think so. I think that again, most people are rational people, and if they had a better way to get downtown without sitting in traffic, they would do it. But the reality is, for those individuals, there's not a better way. And so the $2 or $4 or whatever they're going to have to pay, they'll pay it. I don't think it's going to have any impact on traffic. I don't think it's going to have any impact on congestion.
But it will raise money.
But it will raise money.
Right. Martin, your view on that?
Well, I think dynamic pricing is a better way to go. Variable pricing, peak pricing, where you charge more at rush hour, where you want to discourage people from either going right at rush hour or, if possible, delaying their trip off peak. So dynamic pricing has the advantage of raising a bit more money at peak times and also maximizing revenue, reducing congestion. Look, will it change behavior? There's a whole school of economic theory about the nudge theory, and we saw it with the 5 cents per plastic bag, which did change behavior. Will $2 deter people from using the Gardiner? No, it probably won't. It's a toonie, and that might be a good thing because it will discourage people from trying to take the off-ramp and flooding the neighborhoods. To the bigger question of will it change people's behavior, in the long term, yes. But remember, this is just a beginning. It's going to take years to get this started, and it's a good place to begin because it's a mix of outsiders and insiders, so there's less squawking. But it will also change political behavior. Doug Ford's behavior will be incented in his anger. It will change the behavior of politicians, and it will change the behavior of people apropos of transit.
Let me follow up on that. As somebody who once ran for mayor of the City of Toronto, this clearly gives Doug Ford an entree into, and we'll hear from him right after this. We will talk about it in our interview right after this. This gives him an entree to run in 2018 on I'm the guy who's against tolling any Toronto roads. Play that forward for us. How do you imagine that plays?
Well, I think that, again, if the argument is made that we're going to impose tolls to raise money, then Doug has a better chance than if, listen, what we're doing is building infrastructure. And so, because then Doug would have to answer the question, well, if you don't raise it this way, then how would you propose to raise it? And then that puts it on Doug to figure out a solution. But if it's just about raising money, then Doug will come back to that whole stop the gravy train, there's too much money, you didn't privatize garbage or whatever he wants to pull out of his pocket in terms of the one thing at City Hall that's not efficient. It all feeds into, if the public believes that the money's not being well spent right now and it's just an attempt to get more of it, Doug will have a better opportunity to run on a platform of, I'm just going to be keeping my eyes on your wallet, so you don't have to. But if it's really a question of this is the infrastructure that we're going to build and here's how we're going to build it, that becomes a different conversation.
You used an expression in there, what the public believes. And I want to just follow up on that for a second because this story has only been alive for a few days, but already we have polling, because what would we be in this world without a poll to tell us what we think? Main Street Research surveyed apparently a random sample of almost 2,300 people, and here's what they found. Can we bring this up here? When asked about the possibility of road tolls on the Don Valley Parkway and the Gardiner Expressway, an overwhelming majority of Toronto residents approve, 70%, including 52% strongly approving of such a measure. This is interesting. Approval of road tolls is lowest in Etobicoke, but it's still at 61%, followed by Scarborough, 68%. In the downtown, approval for road tolls approaches 8 in 10 residents, 77%. Not surprising because
they don't use the roads.
They would be paying it the least, of course.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, you know,
Well, there's no question. The best taxes are the ones that someone else has to pay. So my guess is the people who are quite supportive of this initiative are those that don't use the highway, that believe that others will be paying for it, that it means they will have to pay less because otherwise the money's going to have to come from somewhere else. So I think on the face of it, those polling numbers aren't surprising. I think as it moves its way through council and more implications are known and they're clearer about what they're talking about, because right now there's still a lot of questions that need to get answered. Is it time of day pricing? Is it a flat fee? When is it going to go on? You know, and also then the province at some point is going to have to weigh in, because the province is going to have to say, is Metrolinx going to step in and fill that void on a regional basis, or does the province expect each municipality to raise money through tolls to build transit on their own roads?
well, they have a clearer question to answer even before that, which
Right.
is, will we pass the regulation allowing Toronto
That's
to do
right.
this? And they've so far said yes.
They've said yes, because it's not in their interest to say no at this point. But you know, I certainly wouldn't want to see, you know, Markham and Richmond Hill tolling Highway 7, because then you've got two sets of tolls, and then you've got Mississauga tolling entry into the highway, or into the airport rather, and then you've got three different kinds of tolls, and then it becomes a little bit of a mishmash.
But can I go back to that poll for a minute?
Jump in.
The poll actually showed that a majority of people everywhere in Toronto favored it by a surprisingly high amount.
In the
So-
416.
Yeah, in the 416. So Etobicoke, Scarborough, you know, who may be using it less, they're still in favor. And to have 75% in favor of it is amazing. I may have played a part in that, because after I finished writing my weekend column on tolls on Friday afternoon, the phone rang, and it was that very pollster calling. And I'm pleased to say I had my answers ready, and I was in favor of that. They did ask about sales tax and property tax as well, and road tolls was the more popular. So I think that's a recognition, again, that the ground has changed. And for Doug Ford, of course he's going to be able to profit from this. Has anyone here heard of Donald Trump? I mean, the populist message is a powerful one, and he will be able to profit from this. But he will, at the end of the day, have a reckoning in terms of having to explain what he's going to do to pay for those subways to Scarborough and so on. And we'll have a reckoning, because he'll leave a mess if he ever gets into power and decides to cut off revenue.
Not that you have a view on this at all. I understand. Okay. Let me, we got a few minutes left here, and let me check in with, to me, the dynamic on this is not so much left versus right. There's actually a fairly, fairly consistent view on Toronto City Council, to the best that I've been able to see it so far, that this is not going to be a left-right split. But what this may be is a sort of suburban versus urban split, which is different. And I wonder, Martin, if you're the mayor of Brampton or the mayor of Vaughan or Oakville or Mississauga or whatever right now, what are you thinking about this road toll idea?
Well, it depends. If you're the mayor of Brampton and you've sat in Linda Jeffrey, thank you, and you've sat in cabinet for many years, and you were part of the debate on road tolls, you probably have a sympathetic view. I haven't seen her comment. I've seen Rob Burton from Oakville has been supportive. Bonnie Crombie also supportive. The mayors in Oshawa and the regional chairman in Durham less so. So it's definitely going to be tricky for them. But I think they all recognize that there is a need, that there is a traffic congestion starting point here that is a dead end for this town. And we saw Kathleen Wynne and the provincial government try to wrestle with this. And you mentioned Metrolinx. They were trying to figure their way around tolls and never had a very clear, resonant message. But we saw that Kathleen Wynne looked at tolling, looked at the polls, and decided to bail out of road tolls, and went in the opposite direction of John Tory and started to sell off part of Hydro One, the opposite of what the mayor has done.
Let me, Karen Stintz, get you on that. I mean, the reality is, if the numbers are right, most of the people paying these fees are going to be people who live outside the city of Toronto. So if you're a mayor representing one of those suburban communities, what do you think about all this?
Well, and that's the reality, that they can think of anything they want, but they're not their roads. I mean, just to be candid and not to be controversial, but at some point, if I were the mayor in an outlying area, I would then take the rallying cry to Metrolinx, because I think from a regional perspective, the worst case scenario is every municipality implementing their own tolls. I think that's not a good outcome for the region.
But is this a political winner? Because I mean, in question period this morning, Patrick Brown and the Conservatives were up on this, even though it's not the province's decision.
Yeah.
But it's a political drum by which.
But understand that if someone from a municipality is paying revenue that's going to Toronto to build Toronto-based transit, that's one less dollar they can collect for their own municipality for their transit needs.
Except that
So at some point, it has to come together if we're really going to build an integrated transit system. If we just want to have a bunch of municipal transit operators, then maybe the best way forward is to have all these little municipalities putting their tolls in place. But I don't believe that that was the vision of Metrolinx, and I don't believe fundamentally that's what is going to help us break through our gridlock.
Except that we're not asking people in Brampton to pay for Toronto schools. We're asking them to pay for Toronto roads that they use. So it is a user fee.
Is it roads or is it transit?
It's a user fee for both. I think we're going to see. I think it's just at the beginning stages. These are baby steps we're taking, baby steps. So look at it's road pricing. It's something that progressive conservatives should be supporting, as John Tory is now. I don't know. I've never understood why the provincial Tories are opposed to something where you ask people to pay for what they use.
I don't want to sound cynical about this, but it may have something to do with politics, Martin.
Yes,
I'm not sure, but we
point.
shall see. That's Karen Stintz from Variety Village, formerly head of the TTC, and Martin Regcon, who writes about politics for the Toronto Daily Star, as we used to call it. Thanks, you two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.